Hey everyone! Welcome back. I am back today with more of my Steel Ball Run reviews, you guys. We have quite a batch today, you guys. We covered so much in this batch. We've got, I won't even say, because I don't want even one single part of it to be spoiled in the intro. We just got so much. For those of you who know what we're covering today, there's just an awful lot. A lot of really bad stuff, a lot of really good stuff, a lot of stuff that's like in between. It's not really bad or good, but like it's done really well. So I'm like, okay, it's a little disappointing, but okay. But yeah, guys, we're almost halfway through the entire series now. I'm doing up to chapter 40 today in my review, and I believe there are about 95 chapters. So once I do next week's batch, I think I'll officially be like on, at, or a little past the halfway point. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't know what it's not an even split, you know. If it was 90 chapters and like 45 would be the, you know what I mean. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to getting into this because we do have so much to cover today. Like, I say that every time. Like every time, like this series is so just unhinged in its way of like there's no wasted anything. Nothing is wasted. Not one single panel. There's no filler. There's no anything. Like, even like panels where not a lot is going on, it's like beautiful art, or like, it's really hard for me not to just put every single panel in, because they're all important and they all look amazing. So yeah, so it's been a real struggle with the screenshots. Trust me, like I'm still trying to balance that. But anyway, guys, before I get into everything, I do just want to say if you're joining me early today, you know just what that means. It means you are one of my awesome patrons. Thank you so very much. And as always, I am sending up those big old hugs right through that screen. And if not, still, thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you're here. I do hope you'll consider supporting me that way. The link to my Patreon is going to be in that description down below. And if you're joining me on those YouTubes, I really hope you'll hit like, also subscribe for me. It does help me and my channel a whole lot. So thank you in advance for that. All right, guys, we've just got to get right into it. I do have new merch this week, but I'll do it in the Rohan video. Because I'm watching Rohan live action right now, because we have a ton to cover today. So I need you all to prepare yourselves, because even if you know it's coming, even if you've read it, like, this is going to be intense. All right, so where we left off, we had this last story with the last chapter with, oh my god, it just feels like we've done so much since the Ringo story. But where we left off, yeah, was Ringo. Now, I did want to point one thing out, and I'm going to try to remember to put the screenshot, if I can even find it now, like, on the screen. But I did want to point out that I was told after last reaction, there's a very clear panel in the fight with Ringo. It's like in the last chapter that I did. It's in chapter 35, and it's clear as day that we see a stand-like figure appear for Gyro during the fight. I'm just like, the way my brain just did not even assemble that picture. It just went right over me. So I'm like, I guess Gyro has a stand, but we'll put a pin in that. Let's put a pin in that because we've got a lot to do, and that's not all gonna be the same by the end of this batch. Let's just put it that way. So alright, guys, so we left off with the Ringo fight, which was very intense. I really enjoyed, just before I get into it all, I do want to say that, like, I really enjoyed Ringo as a side villain, side character. Araki is just, in general, just doing so much more detailed stories on, which, you know, is the difference between seinen and shonen. Instead of focusing entirely on the fights and the action now, we do get a lot more focus on the characters, the pacing of their development, et cetera, and getting an OP stand and such a, it was an absolutely vile backstory, but a very detailed backstory for kind of like a random side villain who was around 2 chapters just goes to show like the level of detail, love, caring, everything that Araki is putting into the story. It's just, it's unreal to me. And it's not like in JoJo's we ever, you know, it's not like, oh, he's just never done that before. We've never had like a well-done character or well-developed. That's not true, because we've had a lot of really good, well-developed characters in JoJo's, even for a shonen, which, you know, it's typically you're going to focus a little bit more on the fights and the action. But it's just like, it's just on another level. So, yeah, I enjoyed Ringo. I think Ringo has an amazing look. And again, just like, you know, we hit the face chapters last time, guys, and let me tell you, the face chapters, there's no end in sight to the face chapters. Like, every chapter is a face chapter now. We get some kind of super detailed face every single time now, and I just need you to prepare yourselves for it. So yeah, so I guess that's all I wanted to say about last time. I said a lot last time. I think it was like an hour-and-a-half video, so, you know, I think you heard everything, but, okay, kicking off with chapter 36. Last time, what even was it that I was like, oh, yeah, it was Gyro sweating and taking off all his outerwear. And I was like, Araki, you know just what you're doing, sir. You know exactly what you're doing. You're not fooling anybody. I think he heard me. Because what the fudge is this cover? This is the cover, or the, like, inside art, I don't know. It's just, it's the first thing that shows up for chapter 36. We are all seeing this, right? I actually had to turn to Mr. Hime as I was reading this and be like, this is fan art. Like, this, to me, this is what, if you look up fan art, you're going to find a lot of this. What is that? I know what it is. I know what it is. It is a shameless ploy to get me to gawk and stare for about 15 to 20 minutes. And you know what? It worked. It worked wonderful. I've never seen anything like that as like an official art for any series anywhere. And not with a man anyway. Not with a man. You gotta respect Araki for just keeping it like, hey, you know what? And it's not like he won't, like, draw, you know, we all remember Mariah. We all remember, like, there have been women throughout the series who are very, you know, it's not ugly, if you want to put it that way. It's not like he won't draw women that way, but, like, boy, he just keeps it so, I respect so much that he will just do the same thing with a man. And maybe even do it a little bit more with They've always been drawn just, like, very beautifully. So, all right, I just had to take like 5 minutes to be like, pinch me, am I dreaming? Or like, did I die and go to heaven? What is this? Can we all just collectively give one big WTF as to how we were this lucky to get this? Okay, moving on. Getting to the contents of chapter 36, now that we all simped sufficiently. So as you remember, like they had this big fight with Ringo, and Johnny got shot, and Hot Pants got shot, and like they never really, like Johnny was alive, we knew that, but like they never really resolved it at the end of the last chapter. So where we pick up is, they're actually using, Hot Pants is still unconscious, but they're using the cream starter stand, like flesh foam, little spray can of flesh foam to fill up wounds. And I'm just like, that is so flippin' smart. And it reminded me a lot of Foo Fighters, the way that they would use like the plankton to like fill up, like we would get like the goo just to like fill up the wounds and everything, or like fuse something back together, you know. So gotta love a good Jojo reference in JoJo's. But I'm like, that is so smart. So they're using that on, I don't know if they use it on Johnny. they probably did that too, but I think they're specifically in this panel using it on hot pants, or I don't have it in front of me, I just have notes in front of me, so, you know, once it's on the screen, we'll be able to see if I'm right or not. So, there's this panel where, like, Johnny looks inside of Ringo's place, and I'm kind of like, huh? But this is important for later, so take note of this, okay? And Gyro does this ridiculous gag. Obviously I'll put it on the screen, and I'm not even gonna try to reproduce it. Just let him do his thing and just read it while it's on the screen here. And then and Johnny's like, hey, you know, that's pretty funny. And Gyro's like, yeah, you know, it gets funnier and funnier the more I do. And so he goes and he starts doing it for the horses, and he's like Mr. Horsey. He's just like, he's everything, because like and we're gonna have some stuff with him in this one. Like, I was a little mad at him after this match, but like, he's just so stupid. I love it, because he's so brilliant, and he can be so fiery and so like, and then he's just like a big goof, and I don't know, I feel like we're ticking like all the Joseph boxes here. Like, yes, he's a goof, but yes, he can be serious too. He's incredibly brilliant. You know, he's not, yeah. You all know, I think you all know how I feel about Joseph by now. All right, so, gag aside, Gyro and Johnny are saying how, like, this just motivated them more and everything. I think we get a few more good face panels and everything. Gyro is eating Hot Pants food, like, just to be a jerk. And he's like, just so that, like, Hot Pants has no food. When you know, finally, you know, come to and everything. And he's just like, he's like, no, and he's no-hoing like crazy, and it's just, I don't know, he's being so stupid this time. I love it. Gyro goes through a lot in these next few chapters, so, okay, so Javi's still unconscious, and Johnny, okay, before I even say this, I want to preface, do you remember last time when I was like, excuse me, when I was like, I know something about Hot Pants. I'm not going to say it because I know some of you are hearing all this for the first time, and I don't know how important this reveal is going to be, but like, I really don't want to be the one that spoiled you if I don't have to be. Here it comes. This is what I knew, and I tried to keep as quiet about it as I could. Hot Pants is still unconscious, and Johnny notices while checking on him that, surprise, Hot Pants is actually not a him. Hot Pants has, yeah, you see the panel. And his reaction is so good, because he's like, ah! It's exactly the reaction he should have. So yeah, so Hot Pants is a woman, and that was what that was what I knew, but I'm like, for last time, I just referred to Hot Pants as him or he, because that's what they were doing in the story, and I didn't want to ruin the surprise for you. Not that it's like that. It's, the story's not hinging on Hot Pants not being a man, but I had the opportunity, and I chose to keep quiet about it. So, Hot Pants is a woman. Hot Pants is awesome too, and this is another thing where I'm just like, Araki has never been afraid to put like a really cool character in and have be a woman. Like, we've seen that time and time again. In this time when he's doing, I think he wrote this in like the mid-2000s. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but it's not as, it's not like the first time you've ever seen that. But thinking back to, like, the way he did that with, like, Lisa and everything, when, like, that was unheard of. Like, he just didn't, and he pushed for Giorno to be a girl and everything, and they wouldn't let him, and then he had Jolene and everything. I just really respect how he will write a really good female character. So, okay, so they get on their way, like, they patched up Hot Pants best they could, and they're like, Gyro ate all her food, and I don't think he ate all the food, but he was being, quite, sassy about it. So, they get on their way, they're like, we did our thing, we're gonna take off. And Gyro mentions that, like, they should talk through their hands, because, we know that they're being watched, like, we know there's balloons around and everything, so, like, in case anyone's doing any lip reading, like, we should, like, kind of talk through our hands like this, so they can't tell what we're saying, and he, like, I think he picked it up when he was being trained and everything. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I'll put that in there as a note. So they run into Sandman and Poco Loco, and Gyro asks Sandman if they've seen Dio. Sandman says he saw his tracks. He's like an hour ahead. And Sandman warns them of this upcoming storm. And he's trying to help because he says, you know, there was this whole incident in the first stage where, like, Sandman got first place and Gyro got bumped down to, like, you remember he got bumped down like 20 spaces. And he's like, we're even now. Like, I helped you out. We're good. And Gyro he seemed like pretty cool with Sam. I don't think he was not cool with Sandman about that, but like now we're extra cool. So, working around the storm, Gyro's trying to figure out how they're going to get to the next corpse part. When Johnny realizes that Dio is probably actually going to be headed that way too, they're like, oh my god, that makes sense that he's on his way there too. This is where the information I told you to pin for later comes in handy. Johnny remembers that the bird cage inside of Ringo's house was empty, which means he sent like a carrier pigeon about what he had learned from their fight. The fact they got the eye, like the everything, like the map, the coordinates, all this. Yeah, sent a carrier pigeon about it. Great. And they're like, wow, well, since pigeons are faster than horses, we're really going to have to pick up the pace on this. They decide they're just going to have to run through the storm. Since there's no, like, we can't plan around it. We're gonna ride right through it. Meanwhile, we cut to Valentine, who wants to know why they can't track Johnny and Gyro right now with their hot air balloons, and why Ringo's pigeon has not arrived yet. They start to suspect that Steven Steele is going to interfere maybe. They're like, well, he's an idealist, and like, he's really just in this for like the passion and the idea of the race. Like, maybe he's not a real big threat, but like, Valentine wants to get rid of him. He's like, I don't want him around. And the advisor, his assistant, says, look, he's got like a lot of charm, a lot of pull with the media. Like, we can't do that just yet. But like, they're pretty much, you can see, like, they use people, they throw them away. Remember that for later. Valentine reveals that the next corpse part in Kansas City is the spine. So we're looking for the spine now. And the spine, even just the way they're talking about it, is a big deal. I mean, it's a pretty important part of your body, but I mean, so is the heart, and he's got the heart already. So we cut to Lucy, who is being tutored like kind of across the street, but she's watching them through her window. And she's actually lip reading their conversations. So speaking of lip reading that we mentioned earlier, apparently her teacher has been teaching her lip reading, and she's like, make sure you don't tell anybody that, like, don't, because she already knows something is up, right? She's overheard a couple of conversations, and she already knows something's going on. She really does want to keep up with her studies, and yeah, just they remind you all the time that she is 14, and I gotta tell you, every time I see her, I'm just like, everyone please leave this girl alone. Like, we're gonna feel that so much more in this batch. Like, this is the batch where I'm going to be like, must protect Lucy at all costs. This girl, you guys, this girl. I know for a lot of you, like, she is high on the list of characters. Like, she's a very loved character, and I can see why. All right. She doesn't want to keep up with her studies. She's thinking about how her husband, she thinks back to this scene where, like, her husband is saying, like, hey, I only really need you. I don't really care about being famous. Like, they want to put my name in there, they can put it in tiny text. Like, I don't really care as long as I'm with you. And I'm like, there's a lot. I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. There are a lot of scenes in here where I'm like, I understand you're trying to be very heartfelt here. Like, this is nice, and you're building up what she cares about and what's important to, and okay. I'm super weirded out by the fact that she's 14. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I'm weirded out by it. That she's 14, and she's like, and nobody really treats her like she's 14. Like, she's married, and she's married to a much older man. And there's a couple times where people in this chapter are just going to kind of like treat her like she's not 14. Just, please stop. Please stop. I feel this because I was 14 once, and I can tell you, I wasn't even half as mature as Lucy. Like, you're going to see in these chapters, like, I'm trying to think of what I would do in these positions and everything. When I was 14, I was like 14 going on 6. I was not a mature teenager at all. So even more so to me, just, yeah, okay. So anyway, she's thinking about how, like, basically he's going to be in trouble, and like he cares about her, she cares about him. And this is hitting her really hard. So all other things aside, she really does love him, and I know they're trying to communicate that he really does care about her as well. So she, from reading their lips through her window, she gets certain things, like certain words like Johnny, gyro, corpse part, etc. And she knows that they're just using her husband, and they're probably gonna kill him, which she's absolutely right. She also got something about a pigeon too, so she decides to sneak up to like their pigeon coop thing on the roof where they get carrier pigeons in this big complex that they're all in. I don't know what it's big place that they're in. And so she sneaks in, she's like, she's so smart. She walks on up, she's like pretending that, she's like, oh, my husband like left his lunch, and you know, he's always doing that, ha ha ha. I'm just gonna bring it into him, and that's how she gets inside the building. I'm like, girl, you're so smart. Please don't get killed. So she gets up to the roof where the pigeon coops are, but she hears someone coming, and it's Valentine and one of his people. And so she takes the pigeon, removes the pigeon, and hides underneath something. And this is where we get to like some of the most intense scenes. Like this like there, and again, I will say there are parts of this that just really feel like they were made to be animated. And this is going to be one of those scenes where like this is going to be like Alfred Hitchcock levels of suspense. It was already just to me reading it. Like I could feel it. I could feel all the suspense, everything, just as we were going in it. So she hides, she's got the pigeon, and Valentine is asking like if the message could be the location of the corpse part. And we see as he's saying it, Lucy is hiding, she's got it in her hand, and it's the location of the corpse part. So they notice that the lock on the cage is broken. They had also noticed before they came in that like the door was open to the roof, and they're like, okay, what's going on? So they figure out the pigeon already got there, and as they're putting this together, the pigeon is like going crazy trying to get out of Lucy's hands, and she snatches it back, but a feather goes flying out, and I'm just like, oh my god, she's gonna get caught! She's gonna get caught! So they figure out someone else has been here, they're probably still there, and they're hiding. They're like putting this all together, and they're approaching where Lucy is hiding, and she's just about to be caught. And she's sweating it out, tears were just, oh, so much, you guys. So she lets, just as they open the thing, she lets the pigeon go, it flies out at them, she gets away. Somehow. So it distracts them, and they go after it. So this person who's with Valentine right now is named Blackmore, and we get to see their stand. Apparently, it looks like in this panel that he can like walk on the rain, and as soon as I saw that, it reminded me of Kraftwerk in part 5. Because I think, okay, so remember the one with person who was fighting? It's like the first like big Mista episode that we get, and the person he's fighting can like kind of like manipulate energy, I think, or matter. And can actually, like, we see the scene where, like, he's, like, actually walking around in the air because he, like, manipulates stuff around him. So that's what it reminded me of. And keep that in mind for later because I'm like, oh, my God, I was right. This is kind of like Kraftwerk. So we see Blackmore. The rain starts to make holes in his face and skin. And blood starts to, like, fall onto the pigeon. And his mouth, like, crumbles away. And the next thing we see, the mouth is, like, biting down. I don't know if it's biting down on the pigeon or the message. I can't really tell. Like, it's biting something. But so Blackmore gets back to Valentine, and they realize the tube. So he got the tube, and the tube where the message should be is actually empty. So they figure out, okay, somebody definitely got to this first and took the message, and they're going to chase after them, and Lucy's on the run now. So they lock down the building, and the last thing we see is poor Lucy's just freaking out. And Valentine's like, okay, we have another enemy besides Johnny and Gyro, and they are somewhere in this building. Finn! Finn to chapter 36, you guys. I'm going to review them one chapter at a time. This was great. Blackmore is another character who's like, has a really cool design. Yeah, there's a lot more coming with Blackmore that, like, I'll be able to say more, but just at this point in time, I'm like, that's a pretty cool, it's a very unique design, and it's a very cool stand so far, although at this point you don't exactly understand how it works. It's still pretty cool to look at. A lot of ambiance with, like, the rain in this one. There is a reason for that again, but it's just really cool that, like, we get, he's really, like, giving us lots of different settings, you know? We're not just always, like, out in some desert somewhere, or out in some pasture somewhere. Like, we get lots of different settings, scenery, everything. And in this one, we just had, like, pouring rain, which was kind of fun. Yeah, we get a lot of funny stuff with Gyro in this. Oops. We get a lot of funny stuff with Gyro in this one. I just live for, like, the little moments where he's being stupid, you guys. I absolutely love it. We got to see Sandman for a hot minute, and Poco Loco. We're basically in pursuit now to, like, the whole thing is, like, it's a race, but it's also a race just to see who can get to these parts first. Like, that's, like, the real race. And so we're just all trying to keep up, you know. We get to see more of Lucy in this one. Lucy is going to impress you so much in these next few chapters. Like, mark my words, she impressed the heck out of me. And even here you can see, like, first of all, like, the way he draws her is just, like, you could tell, like, there is no, like, and not that it's just all about looks, because you could tell she's also, like a sweet girl. But there is no physically ugly picture, drawing, rendering of Lucy in this whole entire thing so far. Every single panel, she's like, she's just, like, perfect, and I'm just like, oh my god, you could tell he loves to draw her, because he always just draws her, like, you know, absolutely adorable. So yeah, so she's in a lot of trouble. It's been brewing for her, because we know that she's overheard some things she shouldn't have overheard, and all that good stuff, so yeah. So I'm gonna move right on to chapter 37, because we have a ton to cover in these chapters, and I'm already almost, like, a half an hour here, so. Alright, chapter 37, Lucy is on the run. She finds a room to lock herself in. Blackmore tells Valentine he's not sure if the person they're after is a stand user, but most likely it's one of them. Like, this is an inside job. And Blackmore starts looking through all the rooms, like he's outside, like, looking through the windows. And Lucy sees him really quick and is like, and she isn't sure if, like, he saw her peeking out, so she runs to the bathroom. And Blackmore did see someone run in there, so now everyone's busted into this room, and they've got her cornered. She's in the bathroom. Valentine has a whole squad ready to, like, break in and take her, dead or alive. And she's just in there. She's just in there in the toilet. She's like, oh god, help me. You're just like, because it's not like she is a stand user, or she has, like, a master plan, or she's, like, even, like, you know, she's not, they're very much doing, like, a Hayato thing with her this time. But even, like, Hayato is really, really, really smart. And I think she is, too. But, like, you really just get this impression. Like, I think one of the reasons why maybe he made her so young, because a lot of times throughout this story, I'm like, he could have just made her 18 and none of this would be as creepy as it's coming off. I think the reason, my opinion on why he made her so young, was to give, like, the Hayato effect of, like, this is a kid. This is basically a child. I mean, Hayato was a little bit younger, but, like, basically a child. No stands. Not really a whole, especially Lucy. I mean, Hayato was very, very sharp, but, like, Lucy is, like, not, it's not like she's, like, a junior detective or anything, you know what I mean? She is a girl. She is a young girl, and just literally getting by, not getting killed by, like, the skin of her teeth this whole time. So it builds up a lot of, like, I feel like anxiety, a lot more anxiety when it's, like, something, like, with a kid. I mean, I even had that with Emporio, too, but at least Emporio, like, had a stand and everything. But, like, anytime he puts in a kid character, I feel like he's doing it to, like, make us extra, like, worried, and it works. Araki stresses me out a lot with this stuff sometimes, in a good way. Like he's evoking emotion. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. So she's done, right? They got her cornered. Looks up at the vent. Guess what's coming down through the vent? A rope. You guys, Mountain Tim. Mountain Tim is here. He shows up. He shows up to save her. So he helps her break out. They bust in the stall. It's empty. They're gone. And so they're starting to figure out, okay, there's probably 2 intruders because somebody definitely helped whoever. They don't know. They didn't see her. They don't know who it is. But they know that whoever it is probably had help. So they discover that the person hiding in the room had used the phone. So I guess she called Mountain Tim to come help her. They met like once. I think they met like once before this. Like, I remember him meeting her. But she did know of him. So, and he was like I think he's like a marshal or something. So, you know, she might call him. She did call him. So that Steven Steel, like, we cut to the scene where, like, they're bringing him the lunch that Lucy brought, and he's like, that's weird, I already had a lunch here, but okay. So, yeah. Keep that in mind for later. I mean, we already know she did that to get in the building, but, like, other people are going to put stuff together based on that. So Mountain Tim is getting them out through a window, and we learn that he dropped out of the race due to his injuries, but he's like, it's all good because I'm lucky I'm here, I get to hold you, and he's like trying to console her, and like it's, you know, it's one of those things where I really want to enjoy this. I want to be like, oh my god, they're building him up to be like a very warm, loving, awesome person, and like he is, but like I really want to enjoy this more than I'm currently enjoying. I don't mean to be like a downer or anything, just like, it's still just kind of freaks me out about her age. But anyway, he showed up. He cares about her, all other stuff aside. And we don't know, I don't know how old Mountain Tim is. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to be like, didn't you know he's only like 16 years old? I don't think he's only 16. No, he's like a federal marshal or something. I'm pretty sure he's at least like in his 20s. I don't love it. But for the purpose of the story, clearly they're building up that, like, he is a good guy. And we know, all this aside, he is a really good guy, and I like him. I've liked him in all the other stuff that we have seen him in the past. He's been a real one. So he's trying to comfort her. He clearly is, like, laying it on pretty thick with her, and she doesn't want to tell him what's going on. She's like, I don't want to put you in more danger. And he's like, look, I know you're married. I know you're with somebody else, but, like, I still want to help you. And she's grateful. She's like, I'm afraid I may have led you on a little bit, which you really didn't. You just existed. But, you know, she's like, you know, she did call him when she needed help, and he showed up for her. Like, he showed up for her today. Like, this is good, I guess. So she tells him, like, no, like, you better go. And he's like, I'm not afraid of getting in danger. Like, my only fear is losing you. So he's really into her, apparently. And she's like, I'm sorry, but the only man I love is my husband. Like, she really is like, she's handling this like a woman, you know? Like, she is clearly a scared girl. She is a young girl. But a lot of things she just comes at it like with the willpower of a grown person, which I respect her for. I'm still weirded out, but I respect her. So he's like, he's sad, but he's like, okay, fine, but listen, if you need help, at least go find these guys, Johnny and Gyro, because like you all have a common enemy. So she decides she's going to take off and go look for the corpse part. Like, she's got the location. She knows where it is. And she's wondering, like, should I give it to Johnny? Like, what is this all about? So, Blackmore finds Mountain Tim, and he confronts him about the phone call. And so he's like, hey, tell me about this phone call you got. Mountain Tim's like, oh, yeah, the phone call. And he just opens fire. He's like, let me tell you about that, and starts shooting. So they're fighting, and Mountain Tim thinks that he has the upper hand at one point when we just see his face crack. And the first thing I thought was Jojo. Like, I'm still, we're not that far away from part 6. Did you his face cracks. And, like, as soon as I saw that, at this point we see no body or anything, but I'm just like, oh my god, he's dead. He's dead. He's dead. He's done. He's gone. So Blackmore explains that his stand is called Catch the Rainbow. He can stabilize raindrops in the air, which is why he was able to walk on the rain earlier when we saw him. And at this point, it reminds me of a combo of Weather Report, just because of the rain stuff and the rainbow and everything, and Kraftwerk, who could actually stabilize, like, energy, I think, which I mentioned earlier. So Mount Tim is dying, and Blackmore's like, look, I'll take you to a hospital if you tell me who that phone call was from. Which, first of all, total BS. There's no way he's going to help him. Second of all, Mount Tim's never going to give this up. And he has this really cool last line. He's like, I never expected to die on a bed. I'm a cowboy. I just wanted a place to come home to. Which is like, it's kind of sad. And Blackmore shoots him right in the face. I'm sad. I'm sad because I really like Mount Tim. And this is like, I think this is like our first official, let me think about this. Yeah, I think this is like our first official, like, Jobro death. I'm pretty sure. Because any other death we've seen has been like one of the bad guys. Right? I'm trying, if I'm wrong about that, please excuse me, because I can't, sometimes I can't keep it all straight, but I'm pretty sure this is the first. This is the first death. He was, I know I got weirded out a little bit earlier, but Mount Tim was so cool. Like, he really was. He was like what Whole Horse could have been if Araki had decided to, like, turn Whole Horse face. So he's, I at first I was like, the crack in the, I'm like, I don't know, maybe he can, like, use his rope to sew himself up or something, I don't know. I don't think you come back from being shot in the face, you guys. I don't think you come back from that. Not even in JoJo's. Well, I mean, we did have Abdul that one time get shot right in the head, and he did come back from that. That is true. As I'm saying it now, I'm like, I hope, maybe he will. I hope he does. I hope he comes back. But I think that's it for Mount Tim, which is really, really sucks. He was a real one. So Blackmore remembers that, this is where Blackmore remembers that Stephen Steele had 2 lunches, and he figures out that it was Lucy trying to get into the building and that she's the one they're after. So this is really bad. He has put together who it is. He knows it's Lucy. So he goes, he asks the staff, like, where is she? And they're like, oh, she went out shopping. He chases her. Meanwhile, cut back to Johnny and Gyro. They find Dio's prints, finally. And Dio's left eye starts helping him sense that someone is after the next part. But I think he can tell that it isn't Johnny or Gyro, because we know that Lucy is also after it now. So Blackmore catches up to Lucy and sends his nasty mouth after her. Disengages his teeth and goes after her. Finn! End of chapter 37. Oh, guys, I think that was really too bad about Mountain Tim. He went out like a boss. He went out like a total boss because they had a big fight in the rain. Yeah, I think it was still rain. Yeah, because he was using the rain. I'm like, was it still raining at that point? Because again, like, I don't have this in front of me when I'm doing it. I just have my notes. But yeah, they had this big cool fight, and Mountain Tim even got the upper hand at one point, and it's just, yeah. Too bad. Really too bad. He showed up for Lucy when she needed it. She'd be for sure dead if it weren't for him, or at least captured and probably on her way to death. So yeah. And he showed up a lot for Johnny and Gyro as well. He was cool. Sad. I was really hoping, I was wondering what happened to him. I'm like, we haven't heard from him since what? I think I even said it last time. I'm like, we haven't heard from him since, like, he got all jacked up. Man, he just could not stay intact. Like, no pun intended, because his state was literally... yeah. Oh, too bad. He was a real one. I don't think he's coming back, you guys. Like, I don't feel like you come back from that unless you're Abdul. And even, I don't know. Then again, like, we didn't see a body, per se. We did see him getting shot in the face, though. I mean, Misa has also come back from being shot in the head, now that I'm thinking of it. Like, I'm sure you guys were thinking as I said it. Like, so we have 2 people who have come back. Do we have more who got shot in the head? I don't know. Usually I'm right on top of stuff like this, but if there were and I'm missing somebody, let me know. So yeah, that was too bad. Blackmore's stand is really cool. I appreciate it a whole lot, even though he just took out a really cool character. I do appreciate that it's a really cool stand, and it reminds me of some other ones. The little reference to Jojo hurt my heart. There are a couple of references to Jojo, direct and indirect, in these next few chapters. And we're going to talk about them because, like, I feel like Araki was missing Jojo a little bit in these chapters. And you can tell me if you think I'm right or wrong when we're done. But yeah. So Lucy is in way over her head. She got some help. Now she's really on her own, at least until, we know she's looking for Johnny and Gyro. So, alright guys, that's about all I got for chapter 37. We get even more stuff later, so like I don't want to spend too much time on the getting there part. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to actually talk about stuff that happens. But a lot of this is just like super intense, like Lucy being a scared girl on the run. And me just sitting there and thinking like, oh my god, this is it. She's going to get caught. She's going to get... Like, technically, Blackmore at least knows that it's her. And so now she is, like, half caught. He hasn't... Well, he did. He did at the end of that. He, like, actually caught her. So, yeah. What will happen next? Let's find out. Chapter 38. So Lucy has the spine. She's dug it up. She found where it was. She dug it up. We see it in the first few panels, and now Blackmore's got his hands on it. He asks her if she can see his mask, and we kind of see from her perspective, like, no, she really can't, so I guess it's part of his stand, and since she's not a stand user, she can't see it. He tells her the president will decide what to do with her and her husband, and she takes off, like, without the spine. He's got the spine now. So he starts calling the president. He finds a phone booth and starts calling it's not exactly like a phone booth. It's kind of like the 1890s version, but so he starts calling the president, and he's got the spine in his hands, and he starts thinking like, this is an awful lot of power. Like, maybe I don't have to turn this over. And then things just start getting really weird. Like, we see that, like, the phone pole is, like, pierced through a carriage, and all the surroundings have changed. It's turned into, like, a town. Like, now he's in a town, like he wasn't before, but he's still using the phone. And Lucy rides back during all of this. And then he shows up. The one who was at the center of all this the whole time, Jesus, actually shows up right next to Blackmore. And I gotta tell you, I started rooting for Jesus. I was hoping Jesus was gonna come in and be like, get your hands off my spine. And just, I was like, come on, get him, Jesus. That's not what happens, by the way. But Jesus is, like, there. Like, we see him for, like, the first time since they've been kind of, like, dancing around. Like, we all know who it is, obviously, by this point. But, like, they've kind of been dancing around it, not really coming out and saying it. And the big guy shows up, you guys. He shows up in this one. So, Blackmore realizes whose spine he's actually holding right now. And he just starts freaking out. He's not taking this very well. So that's when we see Lucy. Remember, she rode up while all this was going on. She straight up shoots him. And then she, like, rides away and leaves him there. And all the surroundings are still changing. Like, now he's in a forest. So I'm just like, what the fudge? So he started talking about it's the bending of space has caused the area around the pole to move 34 kilometers because of the spine. Like, the spine is super powerful, you guys. And we're going to see more of it later. Like, the spine is not like the other parts. Like, for one thing, it makes you actually see Jesus. It also moves space and time, apparently. And it does other stuff that we'll see later. So spine is like a big deal. Okay, so Blackmore realizes the corpse parts are probably trying to reunite. They're all trying to, like, find each other. Maybe that's why stuff is moving around. And that maybe the spine is trying to move towards Johnny. So he knows he's going to die, but he considers it, like, now he's, like, had a total, like, he's totally turned his life around in these last, like, 2 minutes. He's like, this is punishment for my greed. I was thinking of taking this corpse part for myself. And he's like, when they say, like, come to Jesus moment, he had a literal come to Jesus moment because he's, like, super, like, fanatical now. Like, this all took place in, like, 2 seconds. So, yeah, he had a powerful vision. I guess you could say. So Johnny and Gyro, meanwhile, cut back to them. They've caught up to Dio, and Gyro starts asking Johnny if he thinks, like, he's ready, you know, like, you think I'm ready to take him now, like, based on everything they were saying last time, you know, where, like, Johnny was like, look, like, today's not the day, you're not hungry enough, like, you're not that guy right now, and Gyro's like, what do you think? Do you think I'm the guy right now? And so they go to confront Dio, and Dio just starts to dino out. He henshins into a dinosaur, and Gyro says, like, look, I need you to stay away from me or else you're gonna get it. So he's more or less just kind of, like, warning him, you know, like, they're confronting him, but he's, like, warning him. He's not, like, taking action yet. So Dio takes off at, like, this breakneck speed, and they're trying to keep up, but the terrain and the rain are making it really, really hard on them, hard on the horses. And they figure out Dio's using his dino senses to, like, make a course as he goes. So Johnny's like, look, our best option is to follow his course and then wait for him to make a mistake. But Gyro's like, no, he's not buying that. He says that we're going to have to go after him and, like, really, like, show him who's boss. Like, really just, yeah, beat the crap out of him and everything. So they're trying to catch up, but Gyro starts falling behind, and that's when he remembers Ringo's words about the true man's world and how Ringo never shot his gun first before his opponent did. Instead, he always provoked them and made them fire first. And so everything starts to kind of, like, fall away as Gyro becomes, like, totally focused on their path. Like, he's having this, like, existential experience. And he remembers that Ringo said there would be, like, a light on the path that he should take. And so the next thing we know, Gyro's gone. And Johnny and Dio are, like, looking around. They don't see him. They can't find him. And Johnny looks up suddenly, and Gyro is, like, in front of him. And he's right up on Dio. Like, just, like, out of nowhere. So Johnny's like, what is happening? I didn't even see him. He doesn't understand how he got there. And Gyro tells Dio, like, get the fudge out of my way. And Johnny figures out that their horses actually now have the exact same rhythm. Like Dio's and Gyro's horses, like, they now have the same rhythm. But Johnny's still worried, like, you're way too close. Like, Valkyrie's going to collapse at that speed. You can't do this. But Gyro tells Valkyrie, don't worry. We're not going to have to look at Dio's butt for long. Finn! Finn. We leave off on a mention of Dio's behind. And I'm not opposed to that. You know how I feel about Diego in this. I think he's kind of a snack. So, alright guys, chapter 38. That was a really good one. Again, Lucy is just, like, out here having to be a woman at 14 years old on so many levels. And I'm just like, stop. Everyone, just world, let this girl be a little girl. Like, why are... But she's not. She is a wife who is in over her head and having to do some stuff. And wow, does she do it. Blackmore had like this experience. He's shot now. Like, we don't know at this point if he's alive or not, because he said he was like dying. And we learn, I think, like, what they're really trying to get across here is like the spine is no flippin' joke, like, whatsoever. The spine was like trying to find Johnny, like being attracted to the other parts, and was like bending space and time and like teleporting them. Really weird stuff. Jesus shows up. Yeah, I was pretty I was pretty happy when Jesus showed up. I'm like, you know, maybe like Jesus can make some sense of some of this. But I think it made less sense after he showed up, if I'm being honest. But yeah, you can see how even just like that little vision that Blackmore had, like, completely like changed him. And I think like what they're communicating is the spine is a really big deal, and Jesus is a really big deal, because one thing they've been building up this whole time is like, this is not just a saint's corpse. This is powerful. This is powerful stuff. When these corpse parts get put together, stuff's gonna get real in a way that nobody can handle. And so like they're really building that up, that like Jesus is a big deal. He's Jesus, so you know. So yeah, so we have that. They caught up to Dio, and that was about it for chapter 38. All right, so we're now climbing to the hour mark. Chapter 39, okay? I mean, stuff's already gotten real. I say this is where stuff gets, like, we already lost Mountain Tim, and we've had, like, fights, and we've had shooting, and we just, yeah. So, stuff's already real, but trust me when I say it's about to get more real. So, chapter 39, Johnny's wondering why Dio isn't making any moves yet. They're still on him, and he hasn't really done anything yet, and he starts to get worried. And that's when we see Dio sends out these, like, I don't know what they are. They look like little dinosaur or like lizard flea things, or like little buggies. And he like flicks them at Johnny and Gyro. And they don't like notice, but like Johnny starts to figure out like, wait, what if he's already done something? And he's like, I've got to fire off at Dio like right now. Like he's probably already doing something to us, which Dio absolutely is. So Dio dinos out and slashes Johnny's arm. And he starts to really Dio out here, guys. He's calling them all Muda. He's calling them useless. And the translation I'm reading actually makes a note that, like, useless in this context is said as Muda. So he's Mudaing right now. He's doing the Dio thing. And he's saying it over and over. He's like, Muda, Muda, Muda. And I'm like, yes. But also, like, no. But it's hard not to cheer when he starts Dioing out a little bit. So Gyro's like, oh, maybe it was Muda to throw that first ball. The second ball, however, and it's like going straight for Dio. And he's like, your reflexes weren't so invincible after all, huh? Gyro says to Dio. So Dio's like, no, you're bluffing. And he goes to attack Johnny, but then he gets absolutely racked by the ball. He goes flying off his horse. He and the horse go down. He lets out this huge dramatic scream on the ground. This is like his lowest moment. He's defeated. And Johnny's like, oh my God, this is like, I can't believe this. Like, he's not going to be able to run in the race anymore. He's down. Johnny's like, kind of like, wow, we did it. And Gyro just like hits him like hard for firing off his nails at Dio earlier, or trying to. And Gyro's like, this is not the kind of victory I wanted. This does not make me feel good in any way. I can't believe you did this. And Johnny's trying to argue that, like, look, he knew that Dio was up to something. And Dio was. Dio had sent out the flea things. And the flea things kind of, like, dissipate after they wreck Dio. But, like, they don't know. So, like, Johnny's right. But, like, I get Gyro's perspective, too, because he's arguing that now Dio is going to be more determined than ever. And he's going to come back after this course. And now he's really going to be after them. Like, before he was just after them for the eye. Now it's personal, you know, and he's got a really good point. So Gyro apologizes for hitting Johnny, and he says maybe he's just having trouble, like, trying to fight whatever it is within him he's trying to fight. and figure out who he is or whatever. And he mentions a true man's world again and how, like, this is not going to be easy. And he's right. So that's when they notice Lucy is riding out towards them, and Gyro recognizes her to be Lucy, you know, Steven Steele's wife. And so don't forget, so as far as Johnny and Gyro know, this race is like, it's a big facade for the corpse parts. And Steven Steele is hosting the race. So initially, just keep in mind that they really don't have a big reason to trust her. And I want you to keep that in mind because Gyro is not, in my opinion, at his best in these chapters. The way he deals with Lucy. And of course, we're looking and being like, this poor girl, like, what is wrong with you? Just keep in mind that, like, in their eyes, this is probably an enemy, okay? At least at first. So Gyro's like, we don't want anything to do with this. Don't come any closer. And she's like, please help me. I need your help. So she pulls out the spine and explains that her husband was just being used. They're both going to be killed, etc., etc. And Gyro says, you better not have been followed. And she looks down and the rain is starting to make holes in her arm. And that means Blackmore is back. So they look up. They see Blackmore coming out towards them. Gyro actually says, yada yada does it. And I'm like, I think that maybe Araki missed Jotaro. And then he says Ora right after it. He said Ora a few times now. But like, I'm like, oh my God, were you missing Jotaro when you wrote? Like, I get it. I love Jotaro. And I miss him too. I miss all our friends. I really do, even though I'm having the time of my life with this. I get it. And I appreciate the little nods. But he actually says like yada yada does. Like, oh my God. There were a few things in this that made me think the whole entire time I've been saying like, oh my God, Gyro, he's like Caesar and Joseph. He's so much like Joseph, and he's kind of like this combo of Caesar and Joseph. He is. But I'm starting to think he's like a little bit Jotaro too, and you're gonna see why in a minute. Like, I just think that Araki put all his coolest characters in a blender, and it came out as Gyro. He like threw a cowboy hat on him. It was like, yeah. Okay, so, they try to use the steel balls, the nails, but they're just getting like filled with holes by this rain that Blackmore is using. And the raindrops are like floating in midair. And they're so sharp that they're like all weapons. So our crew can't move at all. Because like they're basically being threatened with like tons of tiny little knives. Maybe not knives, but like sharp things. Little sharp raindrops. So Blackmore now being totally like I don't even know if converted is what you would, he's like totally fanatical now. And he's telling Lucy like, you're evil, you're a sinner, you need to get back the spine. And he says this line about like, he's going to resurrect himself in this new world. And I'm like, I know that's where we're headed, that like, they're going to try to put all the parts together and it's probably going to like make something. But like, it sounds like he's literally, I'm worried. I'm worried for what's going to happen when we put all the parts together. Because I can already see that they're just going to do like a zombie Jesus thing. And I'm like, please don't do zombie Jesus. Don't do that. But I feel like that's where we're going. I feel like they're like Voltroning Jesus right now. And like, we're getting all the parts together. And when we put them all together, it's going to make like, I don't know. It's please don't make Jesus the Jojo reference. But they did. They did it anyway, you guys. They did it anyway. So, Johnny thinks that he has a shot at one point. He's going to try to fire off at Blackmore. But Blackmore sends a hand. Because we know he's like detaching his body parts or whatever. He sends a hand around Johnny's throat. Gyro throws a ball. And it looks like it misses at first, and Blackmore's telling Lucy like she's gonna die in hell and all this stuff, and then Lucy notices that the water is evaporating, so the ball starts to hit, and we find out it's because of the friction and the air from the spin of the ball that it's affecting the rain. He's like, you're cursed, blah blah blah. He's going through the whole thing like just villain monologuing at her, but the water is evaporating and the ball just takes him right the heck out. So Lucy's afraid that he's going to get back up, but Gyro's like, nah, he was like half dead when he got here because she had shot him. Good job. So, so she's like, wait, where did the spine go? And we see that it's going up Johnny's shirt. And he's like, I'm starting to get kind of nauseous. And Gyro's like, oh, you're going to be over that soon. Look. And the sand starts shifting around and words are forming. And the words that are forming are Dexter Brachium, which I could not wait to find out what that meant. And I cheated a little bit and I looked up in Latin what that, like Latin to English, what that means. And it means right arm. So not really a spoiler because anyone could look that up. And we know that the right arm is going to be the next one now. So Finn to chapter 39. This is a really good one. Again, these were just like really fast-paced action, suspense. Really, really good. I love the nods to Jotaro. Again, like I said, you're going to see how he's a little bit more like Jotaro than maybe I originally thought. Dio's out. He gets to say Muda. We wreck Dio. I gotta admit, when I saw Dio wrecked with his horse, the horse is what got me. When I saw the horse wrecked, I'm like, I just felt really bad for the horse. And I do kind of feel bad for him in a way. I mean, I don't because, like, they're doing what they have to do. They're defending themselves. Like, he dinoed out on them. He was going to try to hurt Johnny. But even Gyro was like, you shouldn't have fired off at him because now that they had to wreck him. Like, as soon as Johnny tried to do something to him and he responded and he was about to, like, hurt, kill, whatever, Johnny, like, they had to wreck him. But I think where Gyro was coming from is if they hadn't had to wreck him, like, now you think you've broken him, but the thing about someone like Dio, and it's weird to say this because I said this about Jonathan a long time ago, and it's weird to say about Dio now, but the thing is, I feel like he comes back stronger the more you try and break him down. And that's what happened here. So I kind of feel bad for him in a way, but we, the audience, know that, like, Johnny didn't actually make the first move. The flea things were out, and, like, one way or another, they were going to have to fight him. So the whole thing is just kind of unfortunate because I don't know, it's unfortunate that they couldn't all just, like, I kept hoping they could all just, like, band together and do this whole corpse part thing together. Dio, of course, has his own agenda. You know, he wants power. He wants to make up for what happened to him when he was younger and everything. It's a lot harder to look at him and judge him than it was when we were talking about just, like, Dio, who, like, basically, you know, our first encounter with Dio is like, Jonathan's a sweet baby, and Dio just wrecks his dog, and is just a jerk. It's not like he didn't have his own sad stuff in his background, but, like, there's not a lot of redeeming qualities left, you know, by the time we get to, like, Dio from the original universe. Here, it's a lot more complicated than that because they're all kind of after something. And Johnny and Gyro, I think they paint more of a position here where, like, it's less cut and dry. And, like, Johnny and Gyro are going to do what they have to do, too, to, like, get these corpse parts, which, like, we know, okay, well, to be fair, whatever's going to happen with these corpse parts is probably going to be, like, really bad, and Valentine's probably going to try to use it to, like, destroy the world or something. Like, it always comes down to that. They're always, like, trying to destroy the world, destroy the timeline, destroy something, you know, destroy everyone, destroy all the Joestars, like, whatever. Like, so we know that, like, ultimately, like, they're the good guys, you know? And they are good guys in a lot of ways. But it's just a lot less, and they're fighting for things that, like, you know, Gyro's fighting for this little boy, so it's, like, it's very respectable and everything. But, like, it is a lot less cut and dry, I feel like, than it was in Phantom Blood, where, like, Jonathan was, like, the purest soul to have ever lived, and, you know, Dio was just horrible, and, like, at one point wasn't even human anymore. So, like, in a way, you know, Dio's just here, Diego is just fighting for his own reasons too, like his own cause, you know, like his kind of, like, reason why is to kind of show the people who wronged him. And, like, you can't not kind of relate to that a little bit, like, having seen what he went through. So, like, you know, I'm not saying that he's doing the right thing. I'm not saying that he's not arrogant, that he's, like, not afraid to, like, get his hands dirty or whatever. Like, although to be fair, up to this point, now, put a pin in this, up to this point, he really hasn't, I mean, okay, he may have killed his elderly wife, which we don't even know that he really did. That could be a wildly, I like to think that's just a wild rumor. The only thing that holds any legitimacy with that for me is just the fact that, like, Dio in the other universe, actually, like, killed his father and ended up killing George, but was, like, trying to poison him and everything. It did poison him. Almost worked. And then he just killed him. So, what's my point in all this? My point in all this is, like, it's just a lot more gray. You know? Something about seeing Dio getting defeated here, it didn't feel as good to me as, like, it felt watching Dio get defeated in the old universe. Let's put it that way. Okay? And my point in all this about Johnny and Gyro was, like, yes, they're good. Yes, they're out for, like, good causes and everything. But at the end of the day, they're kind of, like, fighting for what they think is right or what they think they need to do as people. And that's kind of what Diego is doing as well. My only point in that. Not trying to say, you know, I'm already, like, in love with Diego. So I don't want to sound biased in this, I guess is what I'm I know I'm in love with him, but I don't want you to think that I'm partial to him in any way. So, trust me, the next chapter hurt me. I should never fall in love with him, you guys. I should never fall in love with him. This happened to me twice where I've gotten my heart broken by men that I loved on this show, on this series. And it's about to happen again. So, all right, chapter 40. The next part, the next stage of the race comes to an end. They hit the goal. They figure out, so they do all that. And Valentine and his crew figure out that Mountain Tim was one of the traitors, but they know there's still somebody else out there. They know that there were two people working together. So Gyro finds out he came in third at this stage. But Johnny's trying to convince him, like, look, you did the best you could despite everything. By the way, like, they just skip right over to, like, and if you're probably thinking, like, huh? Like, wasn't the spine just, like, crawling up Johnny's shirt and everything? Yes, it absolutely was. No, we're not going to skip it. We skipped some time and we're going to go back, just so you know. At this point in time, we skipped ahead a little bit, and Johnny's like, okay, so he's trying to console Gyro, like, we did the best we could, despite everything, the weather, the fights, the everything. Like, this was really the best we could have expected. This is the best outcome. And so Gyro is looking for who came in first. I noticed it right away. As soon as I saw the list, I was looking for who was number one, and the name popped out to me right away because, you know, the, like, breakdown that it gave me, pun intended, the first time that I saw this name. And it was our friend Norisuke Higashikata, and we're going to see him in a little bit, and I gotta say, I was not... We'll get there. So he came in first place. And we cut back to Norisuke at the, like, watering place with hot pants. And he starts being a little bit creepy. And I'm just like, this is not Josuke. This is not even Ryohei, his grandpa. Like, I was not impressed. So he shows her a newspaper article about this phenomenon that he happens to have. He's like a wonder of the world or something, that he has two belly buttons. And he's just being kind of weird about it to Hot Pants. He's like asking if she wants to stick her fingers in them. And I'm just like, oh no, this is not Josuke, you guys. This is not even close. Like, for one thing, he's like he's like an older gentleman. But, like, I mean, it wouldn't be Josuke in this era anyway, but I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting something really cool because, you know, you guys know I'm a really big fan of Josuke, and his grandpa was super cool, and I'm like, okay, well, the ancestor of his, well, that's the thing, like, there is no, that is not possible, because we're already on a very different course, so, like, just throw away everything that you knew before. There'll be fun references to it, but, like, it's not like we'll ever get our Josuke ever again. It's impossible. Like, butterfly effect is going strong here. Anywho, he says this weird thing to Hot Pants, like, oh, I guess it would be improper of someone like you to do that, huh? And I'm like, does he know that Hot Pants is a woman? Is that what he meant? Like, what did he mean by that? Because she, like, looked very alarmed by it when he said it, so I don't know. I think maybe he figured out that she's a woman. I have no idea. So Dio actually shows up. He walked his horse back, and I gotta say, when he shows up and he's doing this walk of shame, I really was feeling bad for Dio. And I never thought those words would ever come out of my mouth. But I was like, aww. And Gyro's like, well, this is bad. He didn't retire after all. He's back, and he's gonna be angrier than ever. He doesn't say that, but he's thinking it. I know. So we cut back to, okay, so now we're going to cut back to what was happening when Johnny got the spine. So a map starts to form in the sand. And Gyro's like, oh my God, I know what that is. That's the Great Lakes. And I'm like, oh my God, cool. So that's our next goal. And so the words start to spell out, oops, I lost my place. The words start to spell out that all the parts are next to each other. Right arm, which we knew because I cheated and I looked it up, and both ears. So they're like, wow, like we're getting a ton of info from the spine. Like it's leading us to 2 more parts. It's like, this is a big deal. So Lucy is so confused, has no idea what's going on. And they start to question her, like, does the president have a stand? She's like, I don't know, but I know he has like the heart, like that much I know because she overheard that. So they're like, yeah, he must have a stand. So that's what I've been saying. I'm like, he must have a stand. He's a villain. He's got the heart. He's got to have a stand, right? But we haven't seen it yet. So you know they're building that up. So Gyro's asking Lucy all kinds of questions about, like, who knows you're here? Did you bring your own horse? Like, because they're trying to cover their tracks, right? And we're trying to figure out what to do. So he pulls her. And when I say he pulls her, I mean he yanks this poor child onto Johnny's horse. Because he's like, I made a vow to never let a woman on my horse. And I'm like, Gyro, why are you being this way? Like, you know I love you, but like, why? What's your problem right now? And I gotta say, I think that Araki was really missing Jojo. And he was like, I think I'm gonna make him kind of feel about women and treat women the way that like part 3 Jojo did. With one caveat, because I will say, like, deep down, Jojo really had a soft spot for certain women, like his mom and everything, and like he was actually pretty good to Anne. Like he sort of, like, without prompting or anything, started to like protect her. And I remember, like, that's one of the points where I really started to like Jojo, because even though he could be kind of a jerk, he's sort of like, you could tell, like, he immediately kind of took to protecting Anne and like making sure that she was okay and everything, even when she was like pretending to like tsundere at him and she was really like madly in love with him. Is that the dog? Or is that something going on behind me? I don't know. I thought I heard something. So yeah, so Jojo, like, I think even Jojo was like maybe a little bit nicer to young women. But yeah, like the way that he also, like, all that other stuff, now that I know, like, Jojo's whole story, I'm like, oh my God, total girl dad material. But yeah, like, I really think that Araki was like, I'm gonna kind of make his outlook on women part 3 Jojo's. And that's kind of what we got here. So he pulls, so yeah, so not loving the way he's treating Lucy, but we'll get there. He tells her, look, when they come out looking, they're just going to assume that Blackmore brought this horse out. If anyone asks, you just went out shopping. And she's like, I'm sorry, you don't expect me to go back, do you? Like, I just wanted you guys to save me and my husband from the president. Like, I'm not going back. And he just straight up refuses. He even says, "I refuse," and I wonder if it doesn't say this in the one that I'm reading, but I would love it if it was the same "I refuse," like the kotawaru that Rohan says, but I don't know if it is, but that's the first thing I thought of. So he refuses to stop running in the race, tells her to go back and get close. He's like, "Look, you really want to do something, get close to the president so she can steal his heart." I actually had written here, so she can steal his horse. I need to take better notes, but no, not steal his horse, steal the heart. The heart that he has, the corpse part. It's too late for me, you guys. It's too late for me. I'm too far gone. So Johnny comes in, and this is like one of those times where I'm like, oh my god, my love for Johnny went up a little bit, because up to this point I'm like, Johnny's cool, but like Johnny hasn't really done a whole lot for me to be like, oh my god, Johnny, you're so wonderful. But Johnny actually starts offending her, and he's like, she's only 14, like, what are you doing? And Gyro was like really, really cheesed up, and he's like, stay out of this. And like, he's telling her, like, what are you planning to do when you escape? Like, what is your plan? Like, there's no way you can't just get away from this. You know, if you really want to protect your husband, this is what you have to do. And he's like big mad at her. And Johnny's defending her, and I'm like, I know what Gyro's saying is right, but like, I'm with Johnny. Stop being mean to the girl. And so, but here's where we get like, okay, he might be a little mean right now, but he's still super good. He's our Gyro. He takes out the eye and he gives it to her, and he's like, look, this way you'll have a way to draw the parts together so that you can get the heart, okay? And he's like, I'll lose my ability, but when I, still have my balls, so, take the eye. And I'm like, oh, okay, Gyro. Well, you really are good. Like, I wish you would be nicer. That's all to Lucy, but he really is trying to help her. So Johnny's like yelling at Gyro. He's like, you can't be serious. This will never work. This is cruel and it's heartless to make this young girl do this. Like, and he's really defending Lucy. I'm like, oh my god, you kind of took to Lucy like really fast, and it's kind of sweet. So this poor girl is just sobbing for the last 5 chapters. This poor girl's beside herself, and she's sobbing, but she's like, fine, I'll do it. If that's what it takes, I'll do it. And Gyro's is still being so mean. He's telling Johnny, like, don't bother comforting her. But then he also kind of says, like, a little bit under his breath, like, I was wrong about you. And, like, basically that, like, he'll kind of be rooting for her. And he's like, oh, yeah, and I want my eye back when this is all said and done. I'm like, you're so mean, but we know you care. Like, it's a total Jojo situation. So we cut back to Dio, now current day, and he's meeting with Valentine's assistant. Preparing myself to get my heart broken. Valentine is watching from a little bit of a distance, and Dio's like, I'll give you the eye, but I want something in return. And so he's like, look, my horse is really hurt. I can't just run this race like normally, like I'm not gonna be able to keep up with everybody. So basically I want to be able to take it easy. I want to be able to take the next couple stages slow, or the next stage slow. And he doesn't know where the corpse parts are, but Johnny and Gyro do, and he's like, I want to take them from them, and that's what you want too, right? So he's like, look, I really don't care about these corpse parts. Like, this isn't why I'm in this. I want money. And the assistant asks him how much he wants, and he's like, I want Manhattan. Just like, oh my god, Dio takes Manhattan. Oh my lord. Oh my god. I'm just like, you cannot be serious. So the assistant freaks out. He's like, how could you know your role and all this stuff? And Dio's like, oh, that's funny, because I happen to know there's a traitor amongst you. And everyone just kind of stops in their tracks at that. And Valentine is big mad about this as he's looking on. And the assistant is like, do you know who it is? And Dio's just like toying with him at this point. He's like, oh, I can figure it out. Like, I know everyone's, oh yeah, he says that like, he knows Johnny's horse prints really well, and he found them, and he knows that they were heavier than they should have been, which means he was carrying a third person with him. So he's like, listen, I know everyone's weight. And I'm like, how would you know that? It's just one of those things that, like, he can do apparently. And he's like, I can figure it out for you really fast. So Dio's getting so, he's really Dioing out here, you guys. He's getting so theatrical. And he's like, I'll take care of all this once I get my revenge. And he's like, what I want is I want a subordinate. Like, I want to take down Gyro and Johnny as a team. And Valentine nods like, okay, we can do that. You know, he nods to his assistant. Also, I just need to stop and point out, like, Diego's breaking my heart here. He's shattering my heart. Because, like, up to this point, I'm like, he wasn't really working with Valentine. He wasn't really hurting anybody. He couldn't. Now he, like, went right to him. Out of being pushed, being cornered a little bit, admittedly. Like, it's not like he initially did this, but, like, I'm so disappointed that, like, he's not taking the bro route and he's doing this instead. But, like, the panel, the drawing of Diego at this point is just, like, why is he doing this to us? Like, why is he, like, breaking my heart, making Diego go bad? And he gives us, like, this super hot picture of Diego, like, all at the same time. And I'm just like, he's talking about how he wants a subordinate. I'm like, I want to be a subordinate right now. I'll be a subordinate. Send help, you guys. Send help. So, all right. So they're like, okay. And Valentine's like, oh, hey, this is your new subordinate. Don't you see him? And there's, like, someone lurking off in the shadows. And I'm like, oh, God. And Dio's like, huh? You're a sand user? Like, this is him? Like, and they're like, you know this person? And he's like, I don't know. I think I was talking with him back at the watering place. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't tell me this is the old man. This is Norisuke Higashikata. And please tell me I'm wrong about that. Like, somebody, like, literally, please, if I'm wrong about that, don't let me stew. Tell me right now. Because I'm like, please don't tell me that not only was he, like, a creepy old man, but he might be a freaky sand user that's gonna be working with Dio. I don't think my heart could take it. So this person charges out, and he's like a weird shadow thing, and he's got something at the end of his hand that, like, first I was like, is that a honeycomb? And yeah, apparently it's like a beehive. And so the thing from his hand, the beehive lands on the ground and has the word stab on it. And I'm like, oh, that can't be a good sign. And so Dio's like, what is this? And the assistant's like, don't touch the honeycomb things. So they come flying at Dio, and he swats them with a bottle, right? And the person's like, the assistant is like, drop the bottle, like, this is super dangerous. The power starts moving up his arm, and at first it looks like it's gonna, like, shatter his arm, but then it, like, shatters his watch. And the assistant is like, that would have been really bad if you hadn't had that watch on. I'm like, what is happening? So Dio's like, all right, this'll do. This looks good. Hey, do any of you have the time? I'm just like, Dio, are you really over here, like, dad joking right now? Or, like, being cute and funny in the midst of all this? Like, are you serious? So Valentine says to his assistant after, which this is no big shock, but he's like, yeah, we're just using him. Don't trust him. We're going to take the eye from him at some point. Don't trust the search for the traitor to him. Like, he's just a pawn. And I'm like, oh, great. So what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to, like, use him and kill him, which I think is such, I'm so sad, because, like, I would have loved to have seen him as a Jobro. But now they're probably just like, he turned villain, and he's just going to get used and dumped, basically, and killed. And just this whole revenge thing and this whole, like, trying to prove something for his mother and everything is all just going to be, like, and I'm like, that makes me sad. So, the last thing we see is just Lucy hanging on to her husband for dear life, and Finn. Wow, that was an hour and a half. Sorry, I was gonna try to keep it to not an hour and a half this time, but it looks like I failed. So, all right, guys. Chapter 40 was a big one. Like, we have Dio. Gyro was completely right. Everything he said was true. That, like, once it's not gonna break him, though. Someone like him, and Johnny, the thing is, I think in a way Johnny knows this, because he knows about the hunger. He knows about all that with Dio. And the thing about somebody like that is that, like, if you think you're going to break their spirit, don't think they were trying to break his spirit. I just think that Johnny kind of thought like, oh, okay, well now he'll be out of the race. Like, that's it, right? No, not with someone like Dio, because he's like the epitome of what doesn't break you, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And the thing is, this just made him stronger. It made his resolve stronger. It pushed him to do something that I hope he wouldn't have ordinarily done, because I was in love with him. And I just really hate thinking of him working with Valentine now. But of course we know, again, it's very complicated. It's like he feels like this is what he has to do. And honestly, I think at this point, he just wants power. He just, I mean, he always wanted power. He wanted to be able to, like, show them, you know, like, I'll show them. But, like, I feel like he just got pushed into kind of a worse spot now. Like, I'm not trying to defend him. I don't know. I just feel like maybe he wouldn't have done this had things not gone quite this badly for him. I also think he has an awful lot of arrogance and pride, and the fact that he got wrecked so badly just made him so much more on the warpath about everything. Like, that's not what you do to someone with that much pride. You know, they're not going to stay, like, broken. They're definitely going to go to extreme measures, and that's what he did. And he's so smart. I just can't believe he doesn't at least suspect that they're just going to use him and throw him away. But I don't know. I hope maybe, I don't know. I'm still hoping he'll turn bro at some point. But you know, I guess that remains to be seen. So, Gyro and Lucy in this one, I was just like, Gyro, stop being such a jerk. But he gave her the eye. Like, he does care. He is rooting for her. He does care what happens to her. He's just, like, really harsh to her. And I'm like, dude, she's just like a little girl. And even Johnny was like, dude, she's just like a little girl. And I'm like, oh, Johnny, that's sweet, Johnny. Like, I like you a little bit better for that. Like, it's Johnny, like, he cares about kids, you know? I guess we could kind of say that out of it. He cares about kids. I think I'm liking Johnny more and more, but I definitely think it's gonna be like one of those slow burn things where, like, the more I see of him, the more I'll like him. Like, this made me like him a little bit better. I'm definitely rooting for him. And I'm told that we're not done with his backstory, and I'm like, oh, crap. What are they gonna show me now? What are they gonna show me now? You know, like, because his backstory that we've seen so far basically showed him being a jerk. But also kind of showed him getting, like, really crapped on for being a jerk. And kind of, like, not really having many people there for him after what happened to him. So I'm like, you know, I'm sure whatever's coming for his backstory next is going to be, like, even more heartbreaking and will probably make me love him even more. So anyway, but that did bump him up a little bit in this case, because at least he was trying to defend her, and Gyro's just like, you know, again, Gyro was coming at this that she was an enemy. Then he was coming at it from, I think, just, I mean, don't forget, he was raised to be, like, not sentimental at all. So anything we see is just, like, any bit of, like, sensitivity that we see in Gyro is really just, like, a miracle that, like, it manifested within him, because it's not who he was brought up to be. So, you know, he was pretty harsh here. Lucy is amazing. Oh my God, this poor baby girl. I just want to scoop her up and just let her cry it out and just make it so that the world isn't forcing her to have to be a woman right now. And it's just like, that was, she was already married when we met her, but I'm just like, I hate this for her. I absolutely hate that. But I know she's determined to do it. I know she really does actually care about her husband and she wants to save him, and that she will do whatever it takes. And so now we've got to get this poor innocent baby girl next to this shady, awful president and try to get, how do you even do that? How do you get the heart from, like, how do you make it emerge? You know, like, because we've seen them do it themselves, or, like, cut, you know, somebody will, like, cut off the arm to try to get the arm. But, like, how do you make it manifest? Well, with the eye, probably, because it will try to get to the eye. It will try, they'll be drawn. But then won't Valentine know if, like, his heart is being drawn to, like, I don't know. It's very dangerous. I'm so scared for her. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I just hope she's going to be all right. And I know ultimately, like, we've never had a part end where, like, the villain actually wins, you know? So, like, I know ultimately, like, yeah, we're probably gonna, like, win, whatever that means. We'll defeat him in the end or whatever, but yeah, I'm scared for Lucy. Can I adopt her, please? Can I adopt her? She's a child. She's a child, right? Oh, guys, you're asking me to just do an awful lot of, like, watching kids being hurt and stuff like that. So it's hard. It's really hard. But I love her. I hope she's going to be okay. She's got a big job to do. We got to see Josuke in this one. I was a little disappointed that he was a creepy old man who wanted people to stick fingers in his belly buttons. I was a little disappointed. I'm hoping he's not the shadow guy. I'm really praying he's not the shadow guy. I'm praying that I'm just like, because think about it though. The only two people we saw at the water place were him and Hot Pants. And we know that's not Hot Pants. We already know what her stand is. We know it's not that. So like, it's gotta be him, right? Or just please tell me I'm going crazy, because I'm fine with that. But yeah. In any event, I was, ain't no Josuke, ain't no Ryohei. But yeah, we got to meet this universe's Higashikata ancestor. So that was interesting. We did all the stuff with Lucy. We had Dio. I already said a lot about Dio. I think you've already heard enough about Dio. Just that, like, you know, I get, like, at the very least, it's very well done, because you can really see his arc that, like, you know, he started out, he was arrogant, he was not, you know, you wouldn't call him like a good guy, but like he was just kind of here to like do the race thing. Like he wasn't really trying to do anything that bad. He could predict the horse's movements and everything, but like that was just him being smart. He wasn't really trying to do anything underhanded or mean, or like he did throw the rock at the horse's leg that one time, and I didn't like that. But like that was like probably like the worst thing, you know, that he did of his own volition. The first dinosaur thing and all that was like really not his doing, you know. So I'm like, wow, like he really hasn't like done anything super bad up to this point. And then he got wrecked and he did the walk of shame back, and I'm like, so they've set it up really well for him to be like in a position where like his pride is destroyed, and he is very proud, and yeah, he's gonna go to extreme lengths to combat that. So at the very least, I feel like it's as much as I would have liked to have seen him as a bro, I think it's a very great setup for his character. Like you really could argue both sides up to this point. I don't know what he's going to do in the future. Like, if he kills a dog or something in the future, obviously we'll be done. That'll be it. But, you know, I don't know. I think you could kind of argue he's a little bit of a... I don't know if I'd go as far to say he's like an anti-hero. I don't know. I feel like that's giving him a little bit... I don't know. He's not irredeemably bad. Let's put it that way. He's not irredeemably bad. And I think that kind of creates a little bit more of a realistic, like, ooh, we can kind of come in and... I mean, you know what's weird? I was on my bike ride yesterday, and you know what? I'll leave you with this, because it's gone on a very long time. I'll leave you with this. I was on my bike ride yesterday after having reread this last chapter, and I was like, what's crazy is that at this point in time, with everything we've seen from Gyro up to this point, and from Diego up to this point, I get the impression that somehow I think Diego is more respectful of women than Gyro. Like, we haven't seen Diego interact with a woman a whole lot yet. Like, we know he may have killed his wife. We really don't even know that, guys. That could be a very hurtful rumor. That aside, like, think about it. His mother was so important to him and everything. Like, there is a chance he actually would treat a woman better than Gyro. And that just like blows my mind. That is some interesting writing for you there. When like you have your heroes aren't all good and your villains aren't all bad. So I'll leave you with that because I think that's about all I want to say, and it's taken a very long time to get through this and my voice is gone. So I love these chapters. Obviously there was a lot of good and bad. There was a lot of cool stuff, a lot of great fights, a lot of great stands. We got the spine. We saw Jesus. We lost Mountain Tim. Dio is officially bad. Lots of stuff happening. Gyro doesn't have the eye anymore, which kind of sucks. So yeah, so when I said like, oh, put a pin in that because like Gyro might not have a stand by the end of this, I guess that's it for his stand until we get that eye back. And I don't know, I can't see this poor girl being able to pull off this heart thing like super fast. I feel like this is going to be a real, I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know, but we will talk about that next time. Great chapters. I'm having such a good time with this. I'm so invested in it now. We are about at the halfway point, so I just don't expect it to calm down from here at all. I just think it's going to be absolutely bonkers from here on out, and I would expect nothing less. So yeah, guys, big stuff. Loved it. I hope you enjoyed watching along with me or hearing, reading, I don't know, listening along with me. Please be sure to join me next time because God only knows what they're doing. I have not read the chapters beyond, by the way. Like, usually I've started reading them by, like, the time that I know. So it's anyone's guess what's happening next, except for the people who've read it, of course. So please be sure to join me next time, and we will read it, discuss it together. Bye for now, guys.